for you to promote integrity, you need to look at the schools, you need to look at religious groups, you need to look at your social groups, but most importantly, the smallest unit of the society, the family.
When you strengthen the integrity of the system, the democracy is strengthened and you are able to deliver the goods of democracy to the people.
Hello and welcome to Transparency Files, ICPC's weekly television program. I am Hawa Sani Garba. Every year, on the 11th of July, Africa pauses to reflect on one of the greatest challenges confronting the continent, corruption, and to renew its collective resolve to defeat it. The day commemorates the adoption of the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, a landmark treaty that continues to guide African nations in strengthening transparency, accountability, and integrity in governance. The theme for this year's commemoration, scaling up the promotion of integrity and anti-corruption actions across Africa, reminds us that integrity is not the responsibility of governments alone. It is a shared responsibility involving public institutions, the private sector, civil society, the media, young people, and every citizen. On today's program, we'll examine why integrity remains Africa's greatest asset and how every Nigerian can contribute to building a corruption-free society. Also coming up on the program is the Know Your Act segment and reports from our state offices. But first, let's join Ruth Awodi for updates on activities within the Commission. Stay with us.
Welcome to this segment on Anti-Corruption Stories. I am Ruth Awodi. In a firm admonition to the Federal Civil Service's newest accounting officers, the chairman of ICPC, Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu, SAN, has charged newly appointed permanent secretaries to steadfastly subordinate personal and sectional interests to the greater public good in the execution of their official responsibilities. Dr. Aliyu delivered this clarion call during an induction training program for the 4 newest permanent secretaries held recently at the Chief Olusegun Obasanjo Conference Hall within the office of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation in Abuja. He underscored that such unwavering commitment is indispensable for fostering transparency, accountability, and robust good governance across the public service landscape. Presenting a paper entitled Avoiding Corruption Pitfalls, Adherence to Anti-Corruption Principles, the ICPC chairman characterized corruption as a pervasive global malaise, by no means confined to Nigeria. He identified greed, eroded integrity, feeble accountability frameworks, and ineffectual institutional oversight as the principal drivers of corrupt practices worldwide. That will be all on this segment. Transparency Files continues with Hawa.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome to Studio Airlines.
Oh, thank you. Please, we need ticket to Abuja. Yes.
Oh, so sorry, sir. The seats are fully booked.
Hello, ladies.
Good day, ma'am.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Please, I need a ticket to Abuja.
Oh, sure.
40,000, ma. Here.
Excuse me. Abuja.
Yes.
But you people told us that tickets are finished. Abi?
When you asked for tickets, there was no ticket.
Exactly.
So this is what you people do. You hoard tickets and use them for your private business. This is the same reason why, when we get into the flight, half of the seats are empty.
Oga, you can call Minister of Aviation.
Excuse me? So this is what you do? You hoard tickets for your PP? This is corruption and
Not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back to Transparency Files. Corruption costs Africa billions of dollars every year. Resources that could otherwise provide quality education, accessible healthcare, reliable infrastructure, employment opportunities, and improved security. Recognizing this threat, African leaders adopted the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, committing member states to stronger institutions, transparent governance, international cooperation, and citizen participation. Yet, the journey continues. Why is this year's African Union Anti-Corruption Day theme particularly important? Our crew spoke with Mrs. Jane Onwumere, the head of the Technical Unit on Governance and Anti-Corruption Reforms, TUGA. Let's take a listen.
Well, this year's theme is very important to me and to Tuga. That's because we know that as a country, we have made so much progress in terms of the fight against corruption, in terms of the laws that we have, the institutions that we have on ground and all. However, not just Nigeria alone, across Africa, the issue of corruption is still high on the front burner. That's because of the effects of corruption. It impedes on sustainable development, it affects governance, security, and even human rights. So to a large extent, it's critical for us. And this year's theme really looks at a holistic approach towards the fight against corruption. Integrity is the cornerstone of the fight against corruption. So anything that seeks to promote integrity is critical. This thing also looks at issues on actions. And this Anti-Corruption Day is an avenue to create awareness on the ills of corruption and also to get people together to make stronger, firmer commitments on their fight against corruption. The issue of integrity is luckily not just something that has to do with public service. It has to do with you and I. We have personal roles to play, and we have roles to play as government officials. We have roles to play even in our own constituencies. So for us, this year's theme is really critical because it calls for interagency cooperation and collaboration. It calls for multi-stakeholder cooperation and collaboration. For you to promote integrity, you need to look at the schools, you need to look at religious groups, you need to look at your social groups, but most importantly, the smallest unit of the society, the family. You know, as parents, we need to live by example. So it's this year's theme is really interesting and it's really broad because it calls on everyone to play their part. And it also gives us an opportunity to assess how well we have implemented the National Anti-Corruption Strategy. The National Anti-Corruption Strategy actually has 5 thematic areas. One on the prevention of corruption, another on ethical reorientation, another on prevention, and then another on law enforcement and sanctions and asset recovery. Now, when you look at the theme of the African Anti-Corruption this year, it's really broad. It covers almost all these aspects because it talks about the issue of integrity and then it also talks about actions. So across board, across the holistic, the holistic policy that we have on the fight against corruption, this theme really covers all those aspects. It also calls for that international cooperation between the African countries. It reminds us of the need for us to come together to see how we can curb corruption to the barest minimum. We need to look at the issue of fighting corruption from the cradle to the grave, and that's what this theme stands for.
The fight against corruption cannot succeed through enforcement alone. It requires prevention. It requires education. Above all, it requires integrity. Nigeria's anti-corruption efforts continue to evolve with the ICPC implementing preventive measures that address corruption before it occurs while ensuring accountability where breaches are established. The Director of Public Education Department of ICPC tells us more.
ICPC was established to rid Nigeria of all vestiges of corruption through lawful enforcement and preventive measures. To that extent, corruption itself destroys institutions of democracy. It perverts the system. So if an organization is to rid the country of corruption, then it's very, very good for sustenance of democracy. So in the first instance, by the mandate is expected of ICPC to protect, to sustain the institutions of democracy. And by what we do, number one, through investigation, through system studies, through conducting corruption risk assessment and things like that, you expose corruption and you remedy the situation. It means that you strengthen integrity in the system. When you strengthen the integrity of the system, the democracy is strengthened and you are able to deliver the goods of democracy to the people, which speaks to service delivery. People expect, because every project that government is spending money on belongs to the citizen. And when you now say ICPC engages, the civil society, we engage the youth, we engage various sectors of the economy. It means participation. We engage them, we enable them to be able to, alongside ICPC itself, to monitor the projects so that they are delivered in terms of quantity and quality. So sustenance of democracy is embedded there. Service delivery is embedded in what we do. So also when you engage the youth, you are protecting, we do youth education, sensitization, and we bring the youth together, as a group. It means that we are training the youth in values that we make the systems to be sustainable, value that we make them to be good leaders of tomorrow. That's another angle that you can look at it. You have sensitization in the MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies. You do sensitization. You build the integrity culture in the public sector. That is sustenance of democracy, and that is service delivery. When you begin to crusade against everything that negates effective service delivery in the system, you are helping the system for sustainability and for effective service delivery.
Welcome to the Know Your Act segment. Again, we ask, how well do you understand the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000, the enabling law of the ICPC? Remember, ignorance of the law is not an excuse before the courts. We spoke to an officer from the ICPC Legal Services Department to explain what the Act says about giving and receiving bribes.
The National Assembly, in its wisdom, enacted the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act and prohibited the act of asking or receiving gratification by a public officer. And this provision can be found in Section 8 and 10 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. Then it also made provision prohibiting individuals giving to public officers or offering to public officers this gratification. And this provision is found in Section 9. So if you look at the law, it actually prohibits a public officer from asking. In fact, the law says that for a job already done or for a job to be done. So in any way, the law prohibits the public officer from asking. The law prohibits the public officer from taking from the public. Then look at Section 9. Section 9 talks about the individual offering to the or giving to the public officer gratification. So it is also prohibited. The law prohibits it. And for both offenses, the law provides 7 years imprisonment for such offenses, or for both offenses.
Africa is the youngest continent in the world. Its future will be determined not only by the talents of its people, but by the values they choose to uphold. Integrity means doing the right thing even when no one is watching, and becoming ambassadors of honesty wherever we find ourselves. Nigerians have the opportunity to build an Africa where integrity becomes the norm rather than the exception. Our crew spoke to some Nigerians. Let's listen to what they have to say.
So when you say integrity and how it influences what we do, I think it's a guiding principle. It's an attitude of a person who believes in fairness. It's an attitude of a person who believes in justice. So integrity is a guiding principle for people who want to see a better Nigeria, and they cannot do that if they're not being honest with themselves. So let your yes be yes, let your no be no. Beyond collaboration, how are we capitalizing on information that's relevant to us? How are we capitalizing on data? How are we capitalizing on technology to ensure that we are building a society that is not just safe, but is, good enough for everybody to exist, free of corruption? So I think that the best way is to capitalize on technology, deploy it in such a way that we feed the right data.
When there is so much attention in the fight against corruption, it increases the level of development. Most of the monies that are meant for development to channel properly at that direction. But when there is loopholes, these monies will be looted and to enter in the hands of the individuals, and those progresses will not be achieved. So I believe what we need right now is to deploy technology and also find a way to create a reward system, because we have good people out there who have displayed good act of integrity, and when they are rewarded publicly, it encourages others, and the multiply effect will help in having more people getting involved and also shunning the act of corruption.
The resources we have is not anything to go around. And the resources in terms of in cash, which supposed to be distributed equally, are not well distributed. And this gives a lot of reasons whereby the welfare of the citizens of African continent need to be taken care. And this also to reduce insecurity. So I still believe that most of African leaders, they can still do very well in respect of tackling the corruption that happens.
It has to start from me. If it starts from me, how to strategize is not going to be an issue. Because if I've dealt with whatever issue that has to do with that is anti-corrupt, I think taking it out is not going to be an issue. So as a person, you have to start as a person, then you get to your grassroots, then you get to the public, then you get to Africa. Like as it is now, anything that is good doesn't hide again. Once you're known with fighting corruption, I think it will be a global thing. You don't need to struggle to do that.
When you talk about corruption is actually a pandemic in our society. And with what we have today, Nigeria always rating in the corruption index, and it's very worrisome. And then what we can actually do is everybody has to come in, it has to be a collective effort, a collaborative one. It's not something one individual can tackle. So the fight of corruption is something that you as a people must first, like they say, when you want to come to equity, you must come with a clean hand.
Before we round up, let's join Khadijat Ibrahim as she brings us reports from our state offices.
From Borno State comes a report that the ICPC has sensitized bank branch managers in Maiduguri on anti-corruption laws and their statutory compliance obligations. The resident anti-corruption commissioner, Mr. Linus Gubi, urged financial institutions to strengthen due diligence, promptly report suspicious transactions, and promote transparency and accountability. Assistant Chief Superintendent Abba Zikwi presented a paper on strengthening collaboration and compliance obligations in the financial services sector, emphasizing the role of banks in preventing financial crimes and supporting the fight against corruption. Coming from Lagos State, ICPC has sensitized the staff and management of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria, Ijaniki, on whistleblowing, ethics, and anti-corruption regulations. Speaking during the program, Mrs. Yvonne William Mbata urged staff to uphold integrity and accountability in the discharge of their duties. She also encouraged the staff to report corrupt practices through established whistleblowing channels and to comply with regulations on the acceptance of gifts and donations. Coming from Imo State, ICPC has inaugurated the Student Anti-Corruption Club at the Comprehensive Secondary School, Emekuku. Assistant Chief Superintendent Honorio De Victor sensitized the students on the values of honesty and accountability. He urged them to uphold the values of the club and serve as worthy ambassadors of the ICPC in the collective fight against corruption. And from Sokoto State, ICPC has sensitized students of Government Girls College Sokoto, Government Girls College Raba, and Government Girls College Bodinga ahead of the 2026 African Union Anti-Corruption Day. Speaking during the program, Deputy Superintendent Abdullahi Ibrahim Aliyu urged the students to uphold honesty, accountability, and ethical conduct, stressing that the fight against corruption begins with individual actions. He encouraged them to become ambassadors of integrity and contribute to building a corruption-free Nigeria and Africa.
As we commemorate African Union Anti-Corruption Day 2026, we are reminded that corruption is not inevitable. Every honest decision, every transparent process, every accountable institution, and every courageous citizen brings Africa one step closer to sustainable development. Let us therefore scale up integrity in our homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, in government, and in every sector of our national life. Together, we can build a stronger Nigeria and a more prosperous Africa. Thank you for watching, and join us next week for another insightful edition. I am Hawasani Garba saying bye for now.